Hello, people. Welcome back to the second episode of this incredible series about the Silent Forest campaign in with Ieza and Simon Bruslund, conservation coordinator at Vogel Park Marlow and secretary at Silent Forest campaign, right, Simon?
That's right.
Good. Before we continue, I recommend you to watch episode one first. There you will learn a little more about the campaign, about Simon, and about some of the flagship species this campaign works with. Let's get going. To start, I would like to ask you, how is the current situation with songbird species? I mean, apart from the exotic pet trade, what are the threats they currently face?
Ah. Yeah, so songbirds face a lot of the threats that many species face in the wild. So the habitat loss is of course very famous, and it's very true. It's a very big problem. But in combination with the habitat loss for songbirds, a particular big problem is the loss of food. And for
Wow.
many songbirds, that they depend extremely a high degree on insects. And in many regions in the world, insects are disappearing because of pesticides, because of extreme agricultural activities, because of loss of habitat. The insects are the first we lose. And the birds, the songbirds in particular, are directly connected to this. And there's already scientific evidence of the decline in insects being paralleled with the decline in songbirds in European countries, in North America. And I'm very sure you'll see the same patterns in many other parts in the world as well.
Yeah, we haven't. And actually, some people say that we can't live without insects, without
That's right.
bees, because if if there are no insects who pollinates the
Yeah,
flowers or the crops, then we
yeah,
would not have vegetables. And as you mentioned, many species rely entirely on insects, like
that's
songbirds.
right.
And without them, yeah.
Yeah. And there's another threat which is a big issue for songbirds, which is a little bit overseen and is not a very popular thing to talk about. But actually, domestic cats is a big issue. So domestic cats are everywhere in the world, and they are out of control, so to say, and they do kill a lot of songbirds. And I've seen this myself, and in some of the projects I work with, I support projects in French Polynesia in the Pacific, and there's songbirds there. They are so threatened by cats that one of the species, the Fatuhiva monarch, which is a flycatcher species, there's maybe less than 20 birds now, and of those 20 birds, only four are females. So it's a disastrous situation. And the biggest problems are the cats.
Wait. Now that we are talking about this species, this is the moment where we start about another endangered species. First of all, what can you tell us about this? I mean, is there any project going on to breed those um, all those males with the four females, or are you letting nature take its course and the cats
So
take its course?
in this case, the biggest issue is the cats, and but there's also other invasive species. So you would think the logical consequence would be to step up and make a captive breeding program. But there's of these monarchs, this genus is called Pomarea, which is on different islands in the Pacific. In the past, it has been attempted to make a captive breeding program, which completely failed. So
They,
unfortunately, even though these birds are so rare, we don't yet know enough about them to make a good captive breeding program.
oh, I
But
imagine that they are very sensitive as other songbird species and they don't do well in captivity. But um, what about the cats? I've been following the work of island conservation, and they
mhm,
have removed invasive species from more than 100 islands around the
yeah,
world. And are there any projects going on to remove these cats, the
yeah,
little cat killer of wildlife? That that's something very funny that happened when people, yeah, it was a discussion about these cats and how they kill wildlife, and then someone, but my cat, he started defending the cats because he is a cat owner, and then somebody said, yeah, your little kitty killer of wildlife. Oh my god, yeah,
Yeah.
and yes,
But
they,
it's so true.
it's so
It's
true.
people see the one perspective from their side, from their cat's perspective, and say, ah, maybe the other cats are bad, but my cat, my kitty, is not doing anything, and that's maybe the problem. We need to be like
Yeah,
this. The cats are causing big issues, and here in Germany alone, there's more than 18 million cats on the streets every night. That's a lot of cats.
on the
And if you
streets.
say one
Oh
cat
my god.
might kill 10 wildlife every year, you're talking about a lot of wildlife killed by cats. Of course, predators eat prey, but that's another part of it. These cats take the prey away from other predators because at the end of the night, the cat goes home, sleeps on the sofa. Cat or the wild stoat or the wild sparrowhawk also need to find food, and a lot of it has been taken away by the
Yes,
cat.
and
So
well,
it is an ongoing problem. And in the island of Fatihuva, sorry, I'm saying it wrong, Fatuhiva, there's really there's a big problem, and we tried to fence the area where the birds are nesting, but these islands are very rugged. This is a old coral reef, so there's caves and holes and crevices everywhere. It's just impossible to make a cat fence. So there's some rangers there. They're like wildlife rangers, and they're employed to control cats, rats, crazy ants, and fire ants, and brown snakes. And their biggest problem is the cats. They always have to stay on the cats. And this area where the nests are, the birds are fairly safe because they're just on it all the times fighting the cats. But it's impossible because you also need to involve the local communities.
community.
And of course, not everybody agrees on having their kitty removed. So it's not yet possible to completely eradicate the cats on the island. But eventually it will have to be done.
Well, Simon, you mentioned a species that it's very the brown tree snake. It is
Yeah.
the main cause of decline of Guam native species. Many songbirds and the Guam kingfisher, well, thanks to the captive breeding program, is alive because
Yeah.
it is already extinct in the wild. Those, you know, when you said all of this of Fatu Hiva, that island is like hell for a songbird because with all of those invasive species, how will you survive? You have the
Yeah.
snakes at the side, you have the ants all over, the cats.
And on top of this, these songbirds evolved on an island with no natural predators. So this little black bird, he's actually the cutest thing you can imagine. When you go in the forest, he will come right up to you and examine you and see what are you, because he has no natural fear of predators. Unfortunately, when a cat comes, he does the same, and the cat says, "Oh, delicious."
Yeah, that's sad. And well, before continuing, I would like to say to all the cat owners that are watching this video, keep your cats inside because, yeah, as you may have heard, these cats really do are killing wildlife and are killing endangered species and are reducing local wildlife populations, not only here in Australia, in North America, in Europe, here in Latin America, and all around the world. So keep
Yeah,
your cat inside. Yeah,
very good.
there should be a campaign about it. Like, keep
Yes,
your
it
cat
should.
at home because,
Yeah,
yeah,
don't have stray cats and so. And it's not the cat's fault. The cats are innocent. They just do what cats do.
yeah,
The
they need
problem
to
is,
eat and, but
again, like always, the people.
yeah, yeah, it's a huge issue. And now that we're talking about this, and New Zealand has a great amount of songbirds. They
Mm,
also have implemented, I think it was to 2080, that they will be predator free. Stoats,
yeah,
cats, rats, everything out of the island. New Zealand is a really example of conservation, you know, with all of their native species and how many of them have they protected. It's awesome.
But that is also maybe a consequence of the devastating past in New Zealand. These invasive species have caused so many problems that the people had to step up, and it would be a big loss if we wait around the rest of the world and look at and let it come as far as it came in New Zealand, because the birds really we lost some fantastic species. And did you know that one species of songbird, the Stephen Island rock wren, it was exterminated completely. It's now extinct because of one cat.
One cat. It
So
ate the
there was a small island. There was a lighthouse on the island, and the lighthouse owner, he had one cat. And over a duration of 17 years, every day the cat brought a little wren, a little bird, until there was none left.
Nobody stepped up.
Well, it's a long time ago, but it's a best proven case of one cat exterminating one species.
Oh my god, this history may sound hilarious at first, but it's really, really heartbreaking, you know.
Yeah,
Now that I see, you also have an image of the Alagoa Sun Ring. And what can you tell us
that's right.
about the time you worked in situ projects here in Latin America?
So this is a project in Brazil, and I don't know if you know, but there's of course, the rainforest is not just a rainforest. There's many types of rainforest and
Cerrado,
altitudes
Pantanal, Amazon, and
yeah.
yeah.
And the Amazon is maybe the biggest forest, but next to the Amazon, you have the Atlantic forest, which is the forest on the coastal plain, and it's separated from the Amazon forest. So the species living in the Atlantic forest are unique.
Are unique.
Different plants, different animals, different bird species. So they only exist in the coastal Atlantic forest. But you have to imagine this is the coast of Brazil. This is the home of Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, and some of the biggest concentrations of people in this region. Of course, the forest has disappeared, and we think there's maybe just a fraction surviving of this once huge forest. And in Alagoas is one of the worst hit places because it was converted into sugarcane fields and cities and habitation and ranging for cattle. And so almost all the forest of Alagoas was destroyed. And it's been a while ago, but there's only little patches of forest surviving. And in one of these patches, there's the surviving group of the Alagoas ant wren, and it's just a little brown bird, or gray bird in this case. So it took some time for people to get involved and appreciating it. It's a separate species, it needs conservation. And the current stand is that we're down to nine surviving birds.
Well, you know, when I first heard of Alagoas and all of the threatened species and how everything was being destroyed, it was because of the Alagoas curassow. You know that species? Well,
Yeah.
it's extinct in the wild, sadly, and yes, it's super threatened. But also some birds, as I see, are being affected by all of this. Yeah. It's terrible. But
in this case, we try to start a captive breeding program to maybe save the birds, or to safeguard the population. But also we try to use some of the skills and knowledge from zoos and husbandry to implement maybe in the wild to protect the nests, to isolate. And this work is done by a fantastic crew from Brazil. So Save Brazil, which is the BirdLife partner there. We have Parque das Aves in South Brazil, which is coordinating all of this effort, all the ex situ effort. And the universities of Alagoas, they have a fantastic field team who goes out in the forest. They stay there 10 days without going out. They're like sleeping in hammocks in the forest, watching these last 9 birds and taking care of them. So these are fantastic people, and I'm very proud of being able to be an advisor and support them just with know-how and knowledge.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Really amazing. And and well, now that you mention, yes, Parque das Aves is it's like a bird park in Brazil. You know, it is it is maybe for most people not so appealing to go to a bird park than go to a normal zoo,
yeah,
but bird parks are really the ones that are doing the best they can for bird species. For example, I know of Europe, I've heard of the ACTP. I don't know, sorry, but I can say the name. Could you say it, please?
ACTP. It's a private venture working with parrots. Yeah,
With parrots, yeah. Uh, the pronunciation in German, I don't really know how to say it. There's also Vogelpark, what was its name? Avifauna in
yeah,
the Netherlands.
yes.
And there's another one that it's very known, Vogelpark. Forget
Waldschrode.
which one?
Waldschrode.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's like the best known all over the world. But also we cannot let back Jurong Bird Park in Singapore,
of course.
which is
Yeah,
also awesome.
yeah. I
So
used
well,
to. That was the reason I moved away from Denmark, was to work in Waldschrode Bird Park, because I was also amazed by this park. And I worked altogether. I worked twice in Waldschrode. I worked altogether there for 7 years, and I was a zoological director in Waldschrode.
wow. And what happened? Why did you move to Marlow, to Bogota, Marlow,
Well, after Waldschrode, we moved to Spain. So I worked at Loro Parque in Tenerife.
in Tenerife? Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a new focus on parrots. And I must admit, what I found out in my career is that I don't want to be a zoo director, because a good zoo director is the one who is talking to the politicians and making fundraising possible, and making it possible for other people within his organization or her organization to do the important work. And I want to be involved in the important work, and I need to find a park with a good zoo director who makes that possible. And that's how I ended up in Marlow. I found a place where somebody says, "Okay, we like what you do. Go ahead, do it," and
In,
that's really wonderful.
incredible, really. And well, it's also good to hear that you um, decided to be more involved with the work of conservation rather than being, yeah, what you said, a zoo director, which is more about politicians and fundraising. But well, we have a surprise for you people. We arranged a small video uh,
Yeah.
about a little bit of the work of the Silent Forest campaign. As it is in German, Simon will explain the video while we see what it is all about. So
So,
you can do it.
but this is a part of my work. So a part of my work is, of course, in the conservation projects, but also the networking in the European zoos to make the cooperation between the zoos. And one of the programs we have is the Common Hill Miner, and we have a breeding program, and I'm the coordinator of this program. It's a EEP, a
EEP.
European, no, a EASA Exito program. And one of the problems we see with these hill miners is that it's not so easy to make good pairings. And what we do is that when we just take 2 birds and put them together, sometimes they don't like each other and they won't breed. So what we've made in Marlow is a dating center for the hill miners.
Oh,
And the birds, we take the young birds from other zoos or the unpaired birds, we put them together in a social interaction in an aviary, and then they get the chance to find each other. And then if they like each other, they form good pairs. So what we need to do is look at the genetics and make sure we put birds together that are compatible. So if they choose each other, it's still okay for the breeding program. But then we have good pairs, which are really perfect matches. And this is one big problem with a lot of songbirds, is that songbirds are very choosy, very picky about who to mate with and who to form a pair with. And when we just look at the numbers and the stud book, when we say, this bird is a perfect match for this bird, not always they accept it. So we try to let the birds choose. And then when we have these pairings, we have the perfect match. And then after we have the pairing in our bird park, we send them out to another zoo where they can breed. So that's our little video here, our little animation about our captive breeding program.
Now that you mention, that's why it is important to have like a stable or a not like a good number of genetic I don't know how to say it, like not related
you need
animals
to have a
in the
good
breeding program.
genetic diversity
Exactly,
to
because
avoid inbreeding.
because for example, if there are only, let's say, 6 birds or 4 birds in the breeding program at first, and they don't like each other, then it's the breeding program is kind of lost.
That's right.
And not only that, if they do like each other and start to breed, with who will you breed the offspring? Because there will be a moment in which all of them will be related.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very important. The first time I heard about a dating center for birds was for Kia in Tracy Avery in Utah. I think it is in Utah, in USA. It's the same. They send Kias, and then the Kias choose with who they want to be, and then they are sent to another zoo where they can breed. And yes, it's the same, and it's awesome.
And the concept works, and there's similar efforts, and like Antwerp Zoo have a dating area for vultures, for black vultures, and the concept works really well. And even now there's some evidence, and we don't know how, but there's some evidence that the birds tend to choose partners which are better genetically compatible if they have a free choice, if they have the opportunity to have a free mate choice. So there's some research and science in this area coming up to explain and inform people more. On a personal level, I learned a lot about managing groups which are not working in the same place. So in those years before the Corona outbreak, I had the kickstart in home officing and managing teams and getting people involved and talking with each other. So I have a little bit of an advantage. I knew what this is all about before we started having the isolation here in Germany.
Well, yeah, it's something, but oh, this project is simply incredible, right? Before we end the interview, I would like to ask you about your other in situ projects you've worked with in the wild. What can you tell me about it?
So one of the most exciting in situ projects I'm working with is in Nias. And in the Nias island, there's of course the Nias hill myna. But the Nias hill myna on the main island of Nias has probably gone extinct. It only survives on some small islands off the main island. So that means that people who live there, they're at risk of forgetting about their national treasure. They're forgetting about this special bird. And so what we started there is what we call it a pride campaign. We make people aware about this special bird that only existed on their island, and it's people are accepting this notion. It's become a mascot of the island, and of course that could maybe bring in tourists, and they could make it possible in the future to make a introduction program, because we have people receptive to this idea.
Exactly.
So that's what that project is about.
Yeah, and it's very good to involve the local communities and remind them of how this can help them and improve their current livelihoods. Because imagine that, like what has been done, for example, here with the golden frog, every year, well, except for last one, there's a parade and there's a festival to celebrate the Panamanian golden frog.
Yeah.
And people from all over come. There are people sell food, sell things, and celebrate. And this indirectly raises awareness about the species while also involves the local communities. So yes, it's actually very good that you're implementing this, and it's nice to hear about it. Now, Simon, before ending the second episode, I would like to ask you something. Would you care to say a last inspiring message about conservation or about the campaign about birds or something that comes from the heart to my viewers?
I will. Keep your cat inside.
No best message than this has been said before. Really, yeah, it's very good. Well, you heard that right, everybody. Keep your cat inside. They are little killers of wildlife, and yeah, it's not their fault. Like not their fault, but it's better to prevent than see a bird like that. So, well, people, I hope you like this episode. I hope you support the cause of Simon Bruslund. Simon, are you accepting donations? Like
Oh, yes.
Vogel Park. Who is accepting donations? Vogel Park
Well,
Carlo or the project too?
go visit our Silent Forest website, www.silentforest.eu. You'll find a page called Help, and then you can find the opportunity. And with the Silent Forest group, we all work for zoos. That means we have zero administration costs. That means 100% of your donation will be passed on to the birds.
Amazing. You heard that right. I will leave you the link to the website down below, and I hope you liked the episode. Well, Simon, again, thank you for your time. Thanks for explaining all of these interesting topics to my viewers, and I hope we can do more projects together in the future.
Thank you, Fabricio. It was very nice talking to you.
The same. Well, people, remember to subscribe, like, and well, if you're a conservationist or a biologist zookeeper and want to have an interview, just let me know. I'm always open. Bye.